Hey everybody, the Prince593 here, and this is a video of me reading the prologue from the book by John Green called Paper Towns. And I suggest all of you to go out and check this book out. It's really good. And in no way am I trying to steal his work or anything, but I just wanted to read it because it's such a good book, and I think you all should take the opportunity to buy it and read it. And so I just kind of, and besides I only have audition videos of my voice, so I haven't really gone a length of you'll be able to listen to me sort of voice acting, so I just decided to give this out. It's kind of long, but I hope you all will stick through it and hear it out. It's a really good book, again, by John Green, Paper Towns. Check it out. It's really good, and here's me reading the prologue. The way I figure it, everyone gets a miracle. I will probably never be struck by lightning, or win a Nobel Prize, or become the dictator of a small nation in the Pacific Islands, or contract terminal ear cancer, or spontaneously combust. But if you consider all of the unlikely things together, at least one of them will probably happen to each of us. I could have seen it rain frogs. I could have set foot on Mars. I could have been eaten by a whale. I could have married the Queen of England or survived months at sea. But my miracle was different. My miracle was this. Out of all the houses and all the subdivisions in all of Florida, I ended up living next door to Margot Roth Spiegelman. Our subdivision, Jefferson Park, used to be a Navy base, but then the Navy didn't need it anymore, so it returned the land to the citizens of Orlando, Florida, who decided to build a massive subdivision because that's what Florida does with land. My parents and Margot's parents ended up moving next door to one another, just after the first houses were built. Margot and I were two. Before Jefferson Park was a Pleasantville, and before it was a Navy base, it belonged to an actual Jefferson, this guy, Dr. Jefferson Jefferson. Dr. Jefferson Jefferson has a school named after him in Orlando, and also a large charitable foundation. The fascinating and unbelievable but true thing about Dr. Jefferson Jefferson is that he was not a doctor of any kind. He was just an orange juice salesman named Jefferson Jefferson. When he became rich and powerful, he went to court, made Jefferson his middle name, and then changed his first name to Doctor. Capital D, lowercase r, period. So Margot and I were 9. Our parents were friends, so we would sometimes play together, biking past the cul-de-sac streets to Jefferson Park itself, the hub of our subdivision's wheel. I always got very nervous whenever I heard that Margot was about to show up, on account of how she was the most fantastically gorgeous creature that God had ever created. On the morning in question, she wore white shorts and a pink t-shirt that featured a green dragon breathing a fire of orange glitter. It's difficult to explain how awesome I found this t-shirt at the time. Margot, as always, biked standing up, her arms locked as she leaned above the handlebars, her purple sneakers a circuitous blur. It was a steam-hot day in March. The sky was clear, but the air tasted acidic, like it might storm later. At the time, I fancied myself an inventor, and after we locked up our bikes and began the short walk across the park to the playground, I told Margot about an idea I had for an invention called the ringulator. The ringulator was a gigantic cannon that would shoot big colored rocks into a very low orbit, giving Earth the same sort of rings that Saturn has. I still think this would be a fine idea, but it turns out that building a cannon that can shoot boulders into a low orbit is fairly complicated. I've been in this park so many times before that it was mapped in my mind, so we were only a few steps inside when I began to sense that the world was out of order, even though I couldn't immediately figure out what was different. "Quentin," Margot said quietly, calmly. She was pointing, and then I realized what was different. There was a live oak a few feet ahead of us, thick and gnarled and ancient-looking. That was not new. The playground on our right? Not new either. But now a guy wearing a gray suit, slumped against the trunk of the oak tree, not moving? This was new. He was encircled by blood. A half-dried fountain of it poured out of his mouth. The mouth open in a way that mouths generally shouldn't be. Flies at rest on his pale forehead. "He's dead," Margot said, as if I couldn't tell. I took 2 small steps backward. I remember thinking that if I made any sudden movements, he might wake up and attack me. Maybe he was a zombie. I knew zombies weren't real, but he sure looked like a potential zombie. As I took those 2 steps back, Margot took 2 equally small and quiet steps forward. "His eyes are open," she said. "We gotta go home," I said. "I thought you closed your eyes when you died," she said. "Margot, we gotta go home and tell." She took another step. She was close enough now to reach out and touch his foot. "What do you think happened to him?" she asked. Maybe it was drugs or something. I didn't want to leave Margot alone with the dead guy who might be an attack zombie, but he also didn't care to stand around and chat about the circumstances of his demise. I gathered my courage and stepped forward to take her hand. "Margot, we gotta go right now." "Okay, yeah," she said. We ran to our bikes. My stomach churning was something that felt exactly like excitement, but wasn't. We got on our bikes and I let her go in front of me, because I was crying, and I didn't want her to see. I could see blood on the soles of her purple sneakers. His blood. The dead guy blood. And then we were back home in our separate houses. My parents called 911 and I heard the sirens in the distance and asked if I could see the fire trucks. But my mom said no. Then I took a nap. Both of my parents are therapists, which means that I am really goddamn well adjusted. So when I woke up, I had a long conversation with my mom about the cycle of life and how death is a part of life, but not a part of life I needed to be particularly concerned about at the age of 9. And I felt better. Honestly, I never worried about it much. Which is saying something, because I can do some worrying. Here's the thing. I found a dead guy. Little adorable 9-year-old me, and my even littler and more adorable playdate found a guy with blood pouring out of his mouth. That blood was on her little adorable sneakers as we biked home. It's all very dramatic and everything, but so what? I didn't know the guy. People I don't know die all the damn time. If I had a nervous breakdown every time something awful happened in the world, I'd be crazier than a shithouse rat. That night I went into my room at 9 o'clock to go to bed, because 9 o'clock was my bedtime. My mom tucked me in, told me she loved me, and I said, "See you tomorrow." And she said, "See you tomorrow." Then she turned out the lights and closed the door almost all the way. As I turned on my side, I saw Margot Rothspiegelman standing outside my window, her face almost pressed against the screen. I got up and opened the window, but the screen stayed between us, pixelating her. "I did an investigation," she said quite seriously. Even up close the screen broke her face apart, but I could tell that she was holding a little notebook and a pencil with teeth marks around the eraser. She glanced down at her notes. "Mrs. Feldman from over on Jefferson Court said his name was Robert Joyner. She told me he lived on Jefferson Road in one of those condos on top of the grocery store. So I went over there, and there was a bunch of policemen. One of them asked if I worked at the school paper. And I said our school didn't have a paper, and he said as long as I wasn't a journalist, he would answer my questions. He said Robert Joyner was 36 years old, a lawyer. He wouldn't let me into the apartment. But a lady named Juanita Alvarez lives next door to him, and I got into her apartment by asking if I could borrow a cup of sugar. Then she said that Robert Joyner had killed himself with a gun. And then I asked why, and then she told me that he was getting a divorce and was sad about it." She stopped then, and I just looked at her, her face gray and moonlit, and split into 1,000 little pieces by the weave of the window screen. Her wide round eyes flitted back and forth from her notebook to me. "Lots of people get divorces and don't kill themselves," I said. "I know," she said with excitement in her voice. "That's why I told Juanita Alvarez." And then she said, Margot flipped the notebook page. She said that Mr. Joyner was troubled, and then I asked what that meant, and then she told me that we should just pray for him and that I needed to take the sugar to my mom, and I said forget the sugar and left. I said nothing again. I just wanted her to keep talking. That small voice tensed with excitement of almost knowing things, making me feel like something important was happening to me. "I think I maybe know why," she finally said. "Why?" "Maybe all the strings inside him broke," she said. Well, I tried to think of something to say in answer to that. I reached forward and pressed the lock on the screen between us, dislodging it from the window. I placed the screen on the floor, but she didn't give me a chance to speak. Before I could sit back down, she just raised her face up toward me and whispered, "Shut the window." So I did. I thought she would leave, but she just stood there, watching me. I waved at her and smiled, but her eyes seemed fixed on something behind me, something monstrous that had already drained the blood from her face, and I felt too afraid to turn around to see. But there was nothing behind me, of course, except maybe the dead guy. I stopped waving. My head was level with hers as we stared at each other, from the opposite side of the glass. I don't remember how it ended, if I went to bed or she did. In my memory, it doesn't end. We just stay there, looking at each other forever. Margot always loved mysteries, and in everything that came afterward, I could never stop thinking that maybe she loved mysteries so much that she became one.